Good evening, everyone. It's Christopher Hale here in Rutherford County. I'm honored to be here tonight for my Bradley County Town Hall with Miss Leslie Hull. Leslie is the chairwoman, the chair of the Bradley County Democratic Party, a young woman who moved into the community in 2015 and has taken leadership in a profound way, and to the gratitude of the Bradley County Democratic Party, but also the entire community. I'm honored to have her here tonight, and we're going to talk about issues particularly facing Bradley County in the context of COVID-19, and in particular issues regarding healthcare, education, social welfare, and cultural well-being. I have a lot of experience down in Bradley County and Cleveland in particular, particularly for my last campaign for the United States Congress. One thing we'll note is I will be there. The details we're still figuring out next Monday. For the county commission meeting, and I hope, God willing, within social distancing guidelines, there might be some kind of meet and greet for the folks watching tonight. A few attractions coming ahead. We will have that hopefully next week. Next Tuesday, I will be at the Murray County Democratic truck out, outdoor social distancing. I'm going to bring my truck. We're going to be there, letting people know that our campaign is ready to go, ready to win this election. If you're watching tonight, I am going to beat Scott Desjardins. I'm going to win an historic election and bring generational change to Tennessee and America, but I need you to help me get there. Please go to my website right now. Go to christopherhale.com. Make a contribution, $5 a month, whatever you can give. We have thousands, I'm not lying, thousands of contributions from across the state and across the nation this first month of the campaign, averaging at $27.11, almost Bernie Sanders level, just 11 cents too high. But if you're a supporter for me and you live in my district, go ahead and let us know so that we can plug you into our system so that we can get you involved in this campaign. You can simply text Hell Yes to 31996. That will go across the screen for the entirety of the time, so you don't have to remember it. It will be there, but simply text Hell Yes to 31996. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce Miss Leslie Hull. Leslie, can you hear me?
I can. Yes. Hello.
Leslie, thank you for coming and being here. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself and what brought you to this region, what you do for a living, and your experience? I guess it's now been 5 years living in the Cleveland area, living in Bradley County. One thing that your comrades talk about you is that you're very honest. So don't hold back. Tell me what your experience was like being 5 years here in Cleveland.
All right. So I'm actually was born and raised in Louisiana. I moved to Alabama when I was in high school. I graduated from the University of Alabama, Roll Tide. And I came up to Cleveland because I got a job offer for one of the chemical companies in Charleston. I am a chemical engineer, and that's what I do. That's what I came up here for. So I got really involved in, I guess, politics in general when Bernie Sanders ran for office in 2016. That was the first time I'd ever voted, and that's what got me interested in politics in general, because I hope one day that I'm on the other end of this town hall where I'm the one running for office. So I found the Bradley County Democratic Party about 3 years ago, and I went to all the meetings, and then the chair at the time said she wasn't going to run again, and there wasn't really a whole lot of enthusiasm for people wanting to run for positions. So I ran for chair, and I got it. So I've tried to be as involved as possible. You know, I'm looking for different people to come and talk, and it's really hard in this particular district. If you look at the voting history for Bradley County, 2 Democrats have ever won popular vote in the county, and that's Woodrow Wilson and FDR. In 2000 and 2004, Republicans won by the highest margin in our county than anywhere else in the state. So it's pretty heavily Republican, but I do want to find those Democrats. I know we're there, and get us excited about voting and canvassing, and I'm really hopeful about this. 2018 had the highest voter turnout in the midterms. It was 54%. So we already know when people come out to vote, they vote for Democrats. So what we need to focus on in these next couple of months is finding the people who didn't vote to get excited about voting. And that's what I want to do in my position as chair.
Well, and I think number one, Roll Tide. Which it depends on where I go. Honestly, I'm a UT fan. When I get out east, sometimes it depends. MTSU, whatever it takes. So Roll Tide for tonight. Let's talk a little bit about. Let's talk about bringing new voters into the fold. One of the things that's interesting to me about Bradley County is Bradley County is a very highly educated place. You have Lee University right there on the campus. Now, Lee's a very interesting place from my purview. It's an historically an evangelical college, but a lot of young progressives there too, young progressives of faith too. And I remember, I don't know if you were there or not, when Mike Pence came in 2018 to endorse Diane Black. Honestly, I go back and forth on this, but most days I thank God that Diane Black is not our governor. It could be worse, but in more recent days, who knows? But he came to endorse on behalf of the president, Diane Black for governor, and it was remarkable. There was nearly 100 young people there, Lee University students, young progressives. Some I think were evangelical too, who were standing against the Trump administration. Particularly, what happened. I remember the big issue at the time was the detainment and separation of families at the border of the United States and Mexico. What is so? Give me a sense of what we think Bradley County is, what we presume Bradley County is, and what it might be. What are surprising stories about Bradley County? What are surprising communities that we don't know about or talk about enough?
Well, one of the things that I was told when I was looking for a house when I moved here was this is the capital of the Church of God headquarters. It's the headquarters for Church of God, which I hadn't even heard of whenever I came up here. That. And the other thing that was really surprising to me, coming from Louisiana, where you can buy alcohol like in a gas station, was we were almost a dry county. Like you couldn't buy liquor here until like last year. But this particular county really prides itself on its faith, which is very interesting, considering I thought Alabama was the Bible Belt and Louisiana is very Catholic. So I guess it just gets even more from there.
And what's interesting about that, I think that what we presume, and I think this is wrong, I think this is incorrect. We presume that people of faith, all people of faith, are anti-LGBT, anti-choice, anti-workers' equality, et cetera, et cetera. But there are those things, particularly, are not necessarily realities, particularly among young people in Bradley County. What has been your experience? Are there young people there? Are there young communities? Is it vibrant? Is it mostly families? What is the demographic reality? What are the different communities that make up Bradley County?
Yeah, so I haven't really been here all that long. So I don't really know. I haven't hung out with people my age. The most interaction that I get with people in general is at my meetings for the Democratic Party, and no, we're not mostly young people there. But we've had people come and trickle in, and from Lee University, I say, I want to get involved, but I don't live here and I can't, so I don't know what to do. I feel like there probably is a way for us to reach out to the more progressive colleges. But for example, we tried to get a Democratic Party for community, and they just couldn't enough people to sign it. Started wanting to do it, and there used to be one at Lee. Apparently, it was a very active community, but the people graduated, and it just never kept going from there. So that's one thing we need to do.
Well, and it's interesting to me because it's interesting to me. This is in the theory of how we build this party. This is my belief. I began my career working for President Obama in a campaign capacity, and then switched over to his administration. I am 31 years old, so I'm a millennial. Some people call me a 31-year-old boomer. I think that's a put down, but that's fine. It's a spirit, not an age. But what's interesting to me is that we cannot build the Democratic, in my belief, we cannot build the Democratic Party through new bylaws and better procedure and process. Because let's be real, young people, you're very successful and you work a lot. I know that about you. You work a heck of a lot. You put in a lot of hours. The last thing you want to do is drudge yourself to meeting after meeting after meeting without without actually having end goals. And let's be real. The purpose, the historical purpose of the party, according to the Madisonian tradition, to our founders of our country, is to win elections. And it's got to be hard when you don't win elections. It's got to be more. It's got to be frustrating. It's got to make the meetings more daunting, etc. So, my belief is, if I'm honored to be the nominee and go forward, I want to give young people in particular, but also these parties, something to get excited about. I don't know how you felt, but after November 2018, we put all that energy in to the statewide race and the congressionals and the local races, and things did not go as planned. And I had a few whiskeys. It was a rough night. It was a difficult night because it felt like, it felt like you've been left by the girl you've been pursuing or the man you've been pursuing, and they tricked you. They tricked you. You got there and you got left at the altar. How can we get so number one, what is ways we can get the party excited again? And is there an opening there? Are people willing to take another chance in 2020? And if I'm the nominee, how can I convince them to take a chance on me? What do they want to see? What do the people of the Bradley County Democratic Party want to see in a candidate?
Well, what I want to say, something that I thought you did in particular really, really well was have good control over social media, which I think really hits my age people and a lot of boomers too. But I think the downside to focusing solely on Facebook, though, is a lot of Zoomers don't have Facebook. My little brother doesn't have it, and he's definitely voting age, and actually pretty much all the Zoomers that I know don't have it. But I think social media is the right way to go. Personally, I don't have a Instagram, but I hear that's the way to go if you want to target people. So if we really want to focus on young people, we need to focus there. But we also need to be looking at the colleges and actually getting on there, going to their career days and stuff. And that's something I could do. I mean, I learned about getting involved in different groups whenever I was in Alabama, when I first started a political party. I'm not going to say which one because it wasn't this one. But I think that's a good place to start. But the downside is, Lee University has a lot of students that aren't from Cleveland here. So, and I don't know the rules about voting if you don't live in Cleveland. I guess you have to vote wherever you came from. But definitely Cleveland Community College would be a good place to get involved. And that's what I think we need to focus on social media.
Let's switch over a little bit to policy issues. I know you and I both support Medicare for all, but more like even before that, we support expanding Medicaid. What has COVID-19? What have you seen? What is COVID-19? What have been the effects on Bradley County and the region writ large? The data I saw is that your unemployment tripled, like most of the state. So what's going on there?
Yeah, so our unemployment numbers were initially estimated on like the 13th, but then the mayor came back and said, I might have underguessed it. So it's really closer to 14%. It may get as high as into the 15s. So I'm going to say this right. So one thing that I think was good, but I also could understand how it was not, is not shutting down manufacturing. 20% of the working population of Bradley County works in a manufacturing environment. So I do know a couple of them started to furlough workers recently. But as far as like my company, we did our own precautions. We only work every other day, have to plants there the other days. We're required to wear face masks if you're going to be within 6 feet of each other. If you travel, you got to be in heightened PPE. They check our temperature before we go into work every day. They ask if you have the symptoms of COVID-19. So that's a good thing. But then another 20% of Bradley County's working population is the service jobs. Well, that's what's being hit the worst right now. And that's, there really isn't a whole lot you can do about that. That's very close working quarters. And if you can't have people come in the restaurant, then you don't need as many people working in your staff. So that's why and where we're getting hurt, I think, in particular.
It's interesting to me. You look at service workers jobs in particular. Those are the ones that are losing the most. It shows you the weakness of employer-based healthcare system.
Absolutely.
And so I want to give you a pitch. If you ask me, am I moderate, Am I progressive? I would say I'm progressive who gets things done, or a pragmatic progressive, whatever that means. Give me your pragmatic pitch for universal health care. Why does it matter right now?
Okay, so with unemployment as high as it is, all these people also don't have insurance during a pandemic when you need to go to the doctor. I saw a meme, and I shouldn't get your information from memes, but like it's very expensive to be on a ventilator, especially if you don't have insurance. We're looking at upwards of $10,000 a day to be on a ventilator. I saw, what was it? Something like 66% of bankruptcies in America are medical debt related. So that wouldn't happen if we had Medicare for all, because it would be covered. And we're the only ones hurting like that. We're the only country where people lost health insurance because they lost their job. Well, not the only country, but the only one of the first world countries in that situation. And it doesn't make sense to tie it to your own employer, because everybody has an employer, and you can change. You shouldn't have to go bankrupt for getting sick and not being able to get hired because you're sick. And then what do you do if you get, because they're right to work states, they can fire you for being sick. And then what do you do?
Well, it's interesting because we always talk about, rightly so, we talk about the individuals, but here's the secret. You talk to small business owners, they want it too because they don't want to cover it. It's interesting. So I am Catholic, so I used to run a nonprofit, a faith-based nonprofit. People with faith-based nonprofits, they have different ideas about what ought to be covered, what not. They would love to get out of the business of providing health care, so they wouldn't have clashes with their employees over what they can cover and what not. Just let the government cover everything. Let the government, it saves them money. It saves them moral pain and misery about what's in and what's out. And it seems to be a pragmatic choice. We have a few questions that I want a chance for you to take. Let's see. This is a long question, but here's the base of it. So Matthew's asking how I can educate folks who think the Republican Party is the answer. How do we fight back against the Republican Party messaging, particularly on? Let's go with healthcare. Let's go with healthcare vis-a-vis freedom. What are the things that we can do right now to fight back? My argument, as you probably know, is that we're too nice. That we are way too nice. That when they go low, we go high. Not the mantra that we need anymore. But what particular ideas for you on ways we can fight back against Republican messaging on healthcare, on education, on workers, etc.?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, okay. So, all right. So when I was in college, and right before I got to college, I watched a lot of Fox News. That was what I watched when I got home from work. I was a big fan of Glenn Beck. I was a big libertarian. Never once voted on it because I just couldn't quite get all the way there. But then whenever I started doing my own research on platforms and trying to come up with why did I feel that way, I was like, oh, okay, well, this other country does it, and look how successful that is. And then, when I got my own debt, I was like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to have this. And then I just care so much about people. I care about everybody. And I think everybody should have the same opportunities. And I don't think you can do that if you can go into debt for not going to see a doctor. My grandmother has had all 3 types of skin cancer, and she was able to get seen and had all the care taken care of, and she has Medicare. And she talks about how good Medicare is, and I'm like, yes, what if we all had Medicare?
Well, it's interesting. Both my parents are Medicare eligible. My mom's a Democrat. My dad's a Republican. You get truth serum from both of them. They love it. And the thing about it is doctors love Medicare too because they know that it's going to pay the bills. They know it's going to pay the bills, and they're going to pay them on time. And patients love them because they know they're going to get the help they need. It's one thing I'll say is I don't think government is always the solution to our problems. I've worked in government. There are some government programs that suck. They're not good at getting results. But Medicare is not one of them. Medicare is very good. It's very reliable. The data tells us that. The lived experiences of our parents and grandparents tell us that. And so I think it's inevitable that we have to go in that direction. One of the things that I would like to kind of go on, you talked about Fox News, and I'm working media. I've actually done a lot in conservative media trying to push back. Because the reality of it is we can talk in our echo chambers all day and feel really great about how amazing we are and how morally upstanding. but you live in Louisiana, you live in Alabama, which by the grace of God has a Democratic Senator McClain. How do we fight behind enemy lines? What are proactive ways that we can go into these Republican echo chambers and get out of our own spaces and kindly but assertively start pushing a different story, the truth, if you will?
Oh, I do this every day. So not surprising. I have a lot of Republican coworkers. I have one in particular that is just as far to the right as I am to the left, and we debate every day. And it's comical for everybody else, but it's not, because there are a lot of times where we actually can agree on stuff. Because we talk civil, and we're friends. We're really good friends. Outside of work too. It's just we have civil conversations, and I always try to use facts. I mean, I see stuff on the internet, and I think, wow, this is great. I'm going to share it. I go look it up first. And I do the same thing to people who post stuff. I'm like, yeah, that sounds kind of fishy. I'm going to look it up. So we both do that, and facts matter to some people, and I would say the majority of people don't really care about facts. They care about abortion, or they care about how they're going to pay for that, or they care about, everybody just wants a socialist communism. They don't care about facts. So it's really hard to fight someone who really doesn't care about facts or know what they're talking about. But it's interesting. The ones I have reached out to, I think I've made some agreements with.
But what you have communicated, and I think is really important, is that friendship is the birthplace of this. If we're not friends with conservatives, we have no chance in hell. We cannot just simply sit in our Democratic circles and smoke cigars and drink wine and talk about how smart we are. If we do not engage with the majority of this state and convert them, we have to have missionary zeal. We have to get out there like we're trying to convert people, and we have to go and we have to fight in red territory. We can't just simply have these safe enclaves of Democratic land and just sit there and feel morally superior and lose elections by 30 points. It doesn't matter how smart we are. I remember at the beginning of the newsroom, if the Democratic Party is so smart, why do we always lose elections? That's a great question. But I think that kind of highlights one thing I like to plead is that the Greeks said there were three means of persuasion. They said there was ethos, pathos, and logos. Maybe people remember that from grade school rhetoric or high school rhetoric. And ethos was, are you a good person? Pathos is, do you care about me? And logos is, do you know what you're talking about? And the Greeks said that you had to go in order. Someone had to know you were a good person, and then you cared about them. And then they would functionally ask themselves if they know what they're talking about. What's interesting is I think Democrats too often start at the logos. Look how smart we are. Let me go to my whiteboard and show you how wrong you are. But these people don't trust us. There's a lot of misappropriation of identity, that we're demonic, that we any type of possibility that we're unpatriotic, et cetera, that we don't love our country, that we hate them, and we have to work 10 times harder to bring in that pathos, bring in that ethos before they even listen to us. Because it doesn't matter how right we are, if we can't convince them of that, we have no chance in hell. We'll continue losing elections by God knows how many points. I have a question for you to come in. Let's see, let me find it. Oh, okay. So here's the question that is given to you. The question is, in your county, it is a mix between somewhat urban. I think it's urban is very not it's just a street or two. Okay, a mix of suburban and rural areas. How can we combine the needs of these multiple communities into a collective understanding of progressive policy? It's a great question. So I think a better way of asking it is, how can we sell, and this is a question I deal with every day, how can we make a coherent argument to rural communities and suburban urban communities that we're on the right side?
Yeah, no, I understand that. I think one thing the Trump administration did a really good job of was saying, hey, little guy, I'm going to take care of you. So, no, he's not going to, but he said he would, and that's what they care about. There are a lot of people that I work with, that most of them do live in rural areas. And, the things that they don't have is broadband, and but they like their way of life. They don't want to be told their way of life is wrong or backwards or different or not good enough. So what we have to do is say, we respect you for what you're doing, and we want to listen to you. So whenever I was canvassing, we only went in Cleveland. We did a lot of downtown Cleveland, but like I don't live in downtown Cleveland. I technically live in the county, and we didn't come over here. And apparently Charleston tends to have more Democratic voters. We never went to Charleston. So I think we should do more face to face in the more rural areas. Which it's a little more difficult for canvassing. You got to drive, you can't walk, and it takes a little longer. But I think those are the people that we need to see, and I don't know. I think face to face is the way to go. It's very unfortunate that we're in a pandemic right now. There.
Well, it's interesting. So I'll post this in the comments for threads. There's this very famous map in 2016. It's called the I think this is the exact wording of it. It's called the Very Detailed Election Map of 2016 by the New York Times. And what it shows, it's interesting. It shows basically that it shows precinct level maps. And so I believe there is actually one precinct that is blue in Bradley County. And there's I think every county in my congressional district, there's one precinct that's blue. Now, what's interesting about that is we know that Democrats more likely exist where there is more urban density. So the closer you get to the court, the best way I put it is even in rural America, the closer you get to the courthouse, the more likely you are to find a Democrat. But what's problematic about that is I've written before for Time Magazine how we live and the Democrats live in what I call the data-driven culture of exclusion. So we go where the blue areas are. We go. So you get your call sheet, you get your walk sheet. You always go near downtown. You always go to the city center, but you never go out to the existential peripheries of Charleston, different parts of the county that aren't in Cleveland. We did this in other counties too, and we don't engage anyone new. Like if Democrats have not knocked on your door since God was a boy, you're not going to win their vote. You're not going to win their vote. So I think you're absolutely right. But the only thing I add on to that too is that it's my belief that if you look at the 20th century, the number one goal of the Republican Party, number one goal of Chuck Fleischman, number one goal of Scott Desjardins is the repeal of the 20th century. They want to get rid of all of it. They want to get rid of Social Security, Medicare, civil rights, labor rights, all of it. They want it all gone. But what we know is that the 20th century actually built rural America. Like rural America does not exist without government taking proactive steps to make it exist. And I think what we have to do as Democrats is say, yes, we want to preserve the rural way of life, but let me tell you something, something's going to have to change because the way we're going right now, that preservation isn't happening. Agricultural needs the investment from the federal government. We need the legalization of cannabis and different hemp farming and different industries so that they can make a living for themselves. But we need to start making an actual argument for rural America. And I am sick and tired of Democrats just simply, I would say, giving up on rural America, both culturally, but also in a policy sense. I think we have the policies that are better for rural America. I want to give you a final word, and then I will close it out. Leslie, what do you want to tell us about what you're working on and what we should know about Bradley County?
So I have a really good executive committee, and we want to do more, and it's pretty much in my lap to figure out how we're going to do more. So here's what I took for some trainings. Phone banking. That's something we don't do, and we need to do. It's very easy. It doesn't take a whole lot of time. And I don't necessarily know how to do it, but I have the person who's going to teach me how to do it. Then I'm going to teach everyone who wants to come and do it. We're going to be opening up a headquarters. We haven't quite figured out the details of it yet. We're wanting to see who the VP pick is going to be, and we're going to look for a place to go just so we have a place to sit and sell stuff and get ready for it. But there are voters here. We had a surprising amount of Democratic turnout in the last election, and we have great candidates. So no, I as the party chair am not endorsing Christopher Hale, but I think he's a good candidate, and I think we should all get excited about all the candidates that we have because we have a lot. So I want us as a group to get excited. I want you to reach out to us. Our Facebook page is Bradley County Democrats. Come to our meetings. We have all the different candidates coming to talk to us, and then we'll give you the information on how to show up, where to go, what to do, how to get us excited, and how to get more Democrats elected.
Well, Leslie, thank you so much for your leadership in Bradley County. I will be at the county commission meeting next Monday. Details from folks down in Bradley County are coming. We're making sure that we abide by government guidelines. There evidently will be a meeting at the county commission next Monday. If there's anything I can do beyond that, we will make it happen as long as it's safe and secure for you and your families. Leslie, it was great seeing you. I hope to see you again soon.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you. That was Leslie Hull, the Democratic Party chair of the Bradley County Democratic Party. She's a wonderful young leader. I think she might be the youngest chair of any party in my congressional district. We need young people. I want to make a direct appeal to you tonight. I will be the youngest nominee when I win this election on August 6th of this congressional district since Al Gore in 1978. When we go young, when we go to the next generation, both nationally and in local elections, we win elections. Our congressional district has an incredible legacy. Cordell Hull, who was the Secretary of State. We had Albert Gore Sr., Albert Gore Jr., Bart Gordon, Lincoln Davis. Scott Desjardins does not operate in that level of competence. In a decade of service, he's made $1.7 million. He got rich. We got sick. All we got from him in terms of leadership was he renamed the post office. That's absurd. He got mad at me. He told the newspaper that he thought I was being scummy by calling out his corruption and scandal and his abuse of power towards women. Well, let me tell you what I think is scummy. I think it is scummy that our congressman, in a decade, that he voted against free virus testing during a pandemic. I think it's scummy that he voted to repeal healthcare and rural hospitals 80 times in a decade. I think it's scummy that during the middle of a pandemic, our congressman doctor made the choice, the moral choice, to skip a vote to give extended unemployment benefits to thousands of Tennesseans who are struggling, who are waiting on pins and needles to get a check from their government because the government told them to shut down their operations and their business, that he skipped that vote to go get an elective knee surgery. I think that's scummy. Look, I think it's scummy that he pulled a gun on his first wife and dry fired it. I think it's scummy that he coerced three women, including his mistresses, into 3 abortions. I think it's scummy that he illegally prescribed pills to a woman with whom he was sleeping. But the scummiest thing about the Congressman Desjardins' leadership is his lack of it. Before the virus came, he did nothing to stop it. Now that it's here, he's doing nothing to help us. He got rich, we got sick. It's time to fight back. I'm going to win this election. I'm going to win an historic election, but I need your help to get there. The average contribution of our campaign is $27.11. Folks from across the state of Tennessee, from Mountain City to Memphis, have given. Can you go on right now and can you make a small monthly contribution of $5 or more to help fuel this movement? This is not about feeding me, but about feeding this campaign that is going to stretch across every zip code in this state. We're going to win this election, but you're going to get us there. If you want to sign, you can go to our website. They're now available on our homepage. If you are with me in this campaign and I have your vote already, can you text us and let us know so that we can get you into our fold, into our system, into our network? You can simply text hell yes to 31996. That's hell yes to 31996. I promise you, we won't spam you. We're going to win this election. To every Tennessean who's struggling at night, whether from this deadly virus, the inability to find good work, a checkered past, or a dim future, I want you to know this. I will walk with you the entire way. Help is on the way. God bless Tennessee, and may God protect our troops. I'll see you soon.